It's peak holiday shopping season and time to shop local. And if you're looking for a gift that really says the Catskills, well, there's a shop in Catskill where many of the items really do say the Catskills. This week, we're off to Catskill Collectibles, where owner Tom Illari curates a unique mix of Catskills memorabilia, including new creations and hard-to-find vintage wear that 19th century gift givers might have purchased more than a century ago. From antique prints to vintage postcards to souvenir buttons, pennants, and plates, Catskill Collectibles is your go-to shop for that Catskills memento that's sure to delight even the most discriminating Catskiller on your holiday list. I met up with Tom Illari at his Catskill shop, where we pondered Catskills' relationship to the Catskills. I'm Brett Barry, and this is Catscast, the Catskills podcast. Now, I see some things in your shop that say, not the Catskills, Catskill.
Right.
So, what is this relationship between the Catskills and Catskill?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'm not from the area. I grew up in Brooklyn, and back in the 90s had acquired a weekend home in Palinville. And I was working in the city, and they're like, "Hey, Tom, what are you doing this weekend?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going up to Catskill." "Oh, where in the Catskills?" Catskill. The majority of people back, 30 years ago, maybe it's changed now, didn't even know Catskill as a village existed. Catskill was a region, an area, like, "Oh, where are you going in the Catskills?" This saying, not the Catskills, Catskill, was actually used as a marketing promotion for the village of Catskill a few years back. And I took that and made it into a song. So I think it has great meaning to it.
Is Catskill the Catskills?
Depends who you ask. So it's within the region of the Catskills, but the actual mountains, if you are 15 miles west of here. So, and I've spoken to a number of people about this, and some say, well, depends how you're defining the Catskills. You could define the Catskills as Sullivan County, too, with the Borscht Belt and the hotels that existed. They used to call that the Catskills. But originally, the Catskills in the 1800s was basically green and also like down to Overlook. That was, when you spoke about the Catskills, that was the Catskills. And over time, with tourism, it continued to expand west, south, north a little bit, to use the name in promotion for tourism.
So this year marks your 20th year in business?
Yes. Yeah. So the Catskill Collectibles started about 20 years ago. Humble beginnings. I was at the farmers market here in Catskill down at Catskill Point. It was a very large farmers market back then. And I had a booth, started to sell vintage postcards, local, regional ephemera, some artwork, books from my collection. And it was a hit. So it was basically just doing it in the summertime on Saturdays. Then expanded a bit on eBay back then, the early days of eBay, I guess. Then kind of shut it down for a few years. I was focused on my career in the city. I'm a finance guy, a CFO back then for a small tech company down in the city. Spent a lot of time focusing on that part of my life. And then brought Catskill Collectibles back about 8 years ago on Etsy and started to sell quite a bit of vintage items on Etsy. In addition to having the Catskill Collectibles business, I also have a local bookkeeping and accounting business. And I was doing bookkeeping for some of the shops here on Main Street. And the shop that we are in right now became available. And someone mentioned it to me. And they're like, "Hey, Tom, there's a retail shop. You ever think about?" And I'm like, "Retail?" No. But then I thought about it for maybe a week, and I contacted the landlord, and I'm like, "What do you want for the space?" And this and that. I'm like, "I'm going to give it a shot. It's something I've never done. It's a bit of a challenge." And, here I am 3.5 years later with the shop and the online business and still doing the accounting business.
Did this all start from your own collection of memorabilia, ephemera. Tell me about that beginning.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back a number of years. I grew up in Brooklyn. Back in the 60s, my parents decided to take my brother and I up here on vacation. And as a kid, I just I loved it, and my parents loved it too. So we would come up maybe, 4 weekends, 5 weekends a year, and then a week in the summer. We were always up here. And I just, I loved it so much, the hiking, the interest in nature. Then I started to get involved with the local history, looking, Hudson River School and things like that. And started collecting vintage items, ephemera, postcards. Started to get more involved with the past, with the old hotels, the railroads, how people got here, why did they come, and that started a collection. One weekend when I had the house in Palinville, I had some friends over from the city, and I'm showing them this collection I have. And one guy put the thought into my head. He said, "You ever think of becoming like a reseller?" I'm like, "No, not really." So I started thinking about that and thinking, well, maybe it's time to start sharing some of what I have instead of, keeping it hidden in a closet somewhere and pulling it out on special occasions. So that's basically how the business started. And again, it was at the farmers market in Catskill.
Are you still a collector? And if so, how do you decide what to hold on to?
That's a difficult question because I am still a collector. And, I'll give you an example. I have something at my house that is a complete tea set from the Catskill Mountain House. The pitcher, creamer, sugar, 6 plates, cup sauces, the whole thing. I'll never part with that. So there are certain things I have that I can't part with, and nor will I split up, to sell individual pieces. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So anything that is in my collection now at home, I've instructed my son that when the time comes, that it's going to be donated to a local historical society. But it's difficult. Sometimes people come in, "Hey, Tom, do you have like the plate, the Mountain House plate with the cats around the perimeter and this and that?" And I'm looking over at a shelf in my living room, and I'm like, "Yeah, I do." But, over the last 3 years, I've sold off quite a bit of my collection. And it's enjoying some new homes now, which makes me feel good too.
Ultimately, you expanded from vintage ephemera to new products, reproductions, all kinds of things. I mean, the shop is chock full of Catskill merchandise. Yeah.
So the amount of people who are collecting, it's a limited group of people, obviously. So when I first opened the shop, I would say the shop was like 70% vintage. And I had some newly made signs and some new souvenirs. But then what I realized, looking at what people were looking for when they were shopping along Main Street in Catskill, were not necessarily vintage plates from the Catskill Mountain House, but a souvenir to bring home for their recent visit. And they were asking me, "Do you have mugs? Do you have magnets? Something that's new that they can bring home," because they're not looking to spend, lots of money on old vintage, hotel plates or anything like that. So there was a market that I wasn't sure existed here until I opened the shop. And I soon realized that there was a need for new items for people to bring home as souvenirs.
Can you show me some of the special items here, particularly some of these vintage plates and things that you have kind of in this case here?
This one here is probably the most rare and the most expensive. So this is a vintage plate, vintage souvenir, Catskill Mountain House, probably 1840s. And what makes it interesting is that there's this image of the Mountain House, the center of the plate, but it's lined with shells, which have nothing to do.
Well, it goes back to the Devonian period.
Yeah, exactly. It has nothing really to do with the mountains, except, for fossil hunter. And there's another plate, which I think I have anymore. I sold it, that had the perimeters lined with cats, which is really cool. So this is a popular plate, pretty rare.
That rich cobalt blue souvenir plate can be yours for $475. Right next to it is a ceramic pitcher depicting old Rip Van Winkle.
Rip Van Winkle, very popular. So this is a pitcher that's made by Buffalo Ceramics, I believe, in Buffalo, New York. Back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, it's a popular image for collectors, souvenir collectors coming up. Everything up here was Rip Van Winkle and was through the 60s and still is to some extent now. A lot of people come in my shop and ask, who was Rip Van Winkle? Why is he everywhere? So that's an interesting piece. I have some books from the 1800s, which have great images in there on Rip Van Winkle. If you come over here, this section basically souvenirs, that go back to probably as far back as the 1920s or 30s, some of them. Back Catskill Game Farm was a very popular destination, Carson City. Toy City, which was right next to Carson City.
I never heard of Toy City.
Toy City I used to take my son there, they had a large covered miniature golf course. So if it was raining, like what do you do with the kids? Great place to go. Great place to go. But, vintage items, pencil holders, banks, napkin holders,
Salt and pepper shakers.
Ashtrays, very popular back then.
Yeah.
And very popular, too, even when I was a kid. I don't have them anymore. But these cedar jewelry boxes or trinket boxes were very popular. Then in the back of the shop, I have a lot of ephemera, stationery from old hotels and booklets and steamship timetables, travel guides.
Tom leads me to the back room with art, ephemera, and vintage posters.
So these are vintage souvenir booklets, old pictures, early, probably say 1920s, of the various popular destination, whether they're hotels or waterfalls or different spots within the Catskills. Other ephemera like stock certificates from the old railroads, newspapers, receipts, lots of receipts from old hotels, booklets from different events, different types of charity balls. And
let's take a look at this one here. It's got a grocery receipt to Edson A. Young, dealer in groceries, fruits, and vegetables in Catskill, New York.
Yeah.
Got a peck of potatoes, 65 cents. 3 cigars, 20 cents. Camp beans, a can of herring.
Yeah.
A grand total of $2.01.
It's probably a lot of money, too.
October 18th, 1929.
1929. So what happens, I keep ephemera like this in the shop because people come in and say, hey, my grandfather owned a grocery store on Main Street, or my great-grandfather had a boarding house over in Leeds. Do you have anything on that? And there were hundreds of boarding houses, so the chance of me having anything is pretty rare. But every now and then, I'm like, I do have something, and that just makes people very happy when they come by and they say, oh, he has something here. So I keep items like this for those special occasions. Typically just sit here until someone finds a connection to them.
Some Milton Glaser
Yes.
posters of the Catskills,
Yeah.
those classic cats emerging from the mountains.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to become friends with a lady here in Catskill who worked with Milton Glaser, and she had a number of posters in her house, and a lot of them are here on consignment. I do have some copies of this style poster, and this one too is very popular. This is Milton Glaser. It's a Catskill cuisine poster. September 21st at Windows on the World, 1999, where there was a special event of Catskill cuisine at the Trade Center. Another more popular items are these Bartlett prints. Bartlett did steel engravings. Anything that's colored is hand-colored. They're from travel guides, mostly European travel guides. And they're very popular with collectors. They're probably from the 1840s to the 1870s. And I also carry reproductions of these for people who don't want to spend the money on the originals. I do offer reproductions.
Where do you source the vintage material now? Are you still actively buying it and always kind of on the lookout?
I'm constantly on the lookout. Every day I'm looking online at auction houses And one of the nice things since I've opened the shop is people know I'm here. So some people will come in with vintage items, whether they're lithographs, items from the old Catskill Game Farm, for example. They'll come in with the box like, hey, Tom, have a look. Let me know what you think. And they'll leave it with me. I'll go through it. And that's turned out to be very popular now, too, with people reaching out to me saying, hey, I have something. You want it? Let's talk. So that's been good. And again, online, too. I'm constantly looking and asking people. I know the collectors around town. I'm like, if you have any duplicates of anything, give a shout. Let me know. Maybe we can talk. So.
And then you've got some really nice wood signs here that are made to look vintage, but it looks like they're made on barnwood or something like that.
They are. My friend makes these. They're made in Stamford, New York. They're made from reclaimed barnwood and silo wood. And been very happy selling different village town signs, but also have expanded into other signs too, which you can see throughout the shop. And also anything that you see here can also be made custom. So if you wanted a town that I don't have, I can always order one.
Yeah, these seem like mostly Greene County towns, so I don't see mine there.
Yeah, I try to keep it local. At least, I started with like 4 of them. It was Catskill, Leeds, Palinville, I think Round Top, and then I've already expanded to this. But a lot of people come in, even from Hudson, New York. They'll come over the river, and I'll have Hudson, New York signs made for them if they like.
And there is one that says Brooklyn.
Yes. So the obvious here is that I get a lot of tourists from Brooklyn. Yeah. And, I sell Brooklyn, Catskill, New York combined to a lot of people who come visit here. Yeah.
What drove you to collect in the first place?
Interest. Like I said, coming up here as a child in the 60s, I always enjoyed being here. And so I started to look at other things. I got, even as a young kid, I got involved, hiking in the creeks, looking for fossils, and just, got to the point where I was reading about geology and the Ice Age and how the mountains were formed, how they were lifted, and, all this geology and scientific stuff that was helping me learn about the area that I loved, that I just loved being in. That just started to expand into, like I said, the Hudson River School. And by reading about the history, I learned about the old hotels, the Mountain House, the Catskill, the Laurel House were the 3 main ones, and hundreds of boarding houses that popped up and roadside attractions and that I even remember as a child. And so as these things disappeared in my lifetime, I started to collect because it brought back good memories for me. I wasn't around when the Mountain House was open, but that was a significant part of the history of this region and what transformed the United States and the first vacation land in the Northeast. That got me into collecting, just having this interest of this space, where we are here.
Are you seeing a resurgence in the Catskills as vacation land?
Absolutely. And people buying homes up here and getting out of the city. And what I try to do and what I'm hoping to do is to promote some of the history about it. It's not just what you see now, coming up here. People will come in the shop and ask me, what was Rip Van Winkle? Why is there a statue of him up on Main Street? And I'll explain, the story to them and tell them why that was significant here, especially for tourism. But it's also, American literature, So there was definitely a resurgence, there's no question. What I would like to become part of is to help people who come here understand what was here before and appreciate that if possible.
Are you seeing the inventory of vintage goods out in the marketplace diminishing? Do you ever worry that it'll dry up?
I don't worry that it will dry up, but I do see it diminishing. And on certain items, I see prices skyrocketing. So, I look at a piece that maybe 5 years ago I sold for $60. Now I can't buy it for less than $200. So, yeah, I do see that. And I think from a lot of collectors that I've spoken to here, local collectors, they're just holding on, I don't know what they're holding on for. Eventually, maybe think they can make millions. I don't know, but there's definitely a change in the past, I'd say, 10 years, especially post-COVID.
Who are your customers? Are they regulars, weekenders? What's the mix?
Just by the type of shop I have collectors, obviously, and that's how the business first started. What it's transformed into was tourists, which is why so much of the shop now is geared towards the tourist industry. And a smaller portion of the shop now is geared towards collectors, simply because of the balance of people coming in and what they're looking for, and what I can, how to sustain a business. And so when I was just online, the majority of people were collectors and still are, those that are online. And it's interesting, the stuff that I sell online, most of it's not shipped locally. It's people who grew up here and retired in Florida, they're in Nevada, they're somewhere else, or in the city. But what's happened with the shop is that a local collector will come in. A lot of locals do come in, but they already have stuff from the Catskill Game Farm, and a lot of stuff that I'm selling. They tell me, "Oh, I have this at home," So they come in to entertain, be entertained by what I have here. I had one lady say to me, "You're like a museum," So it brings back memories of people's childhood or when they took their kids to local attractions and stuff like that. So you're tugging at someone's emotions many times looking at these items. Lately, I would say the mix now is primarily tourists.
Now that this retail space has been going for
3.5 years.
Here, right in the center of historic Catskill, did you ever think that you'd be running a shop?
Never. Never. If you told me 4 years ago I'd have a retail shop on Main Street, I'm like, you're crazy. Because it's not something that was ever on my radar. I was building a bookkeeping, accounting practice, which now I cut back on because I need to devote the time. This takes a lot of time, believe it or not.
I believe it.
Yeah. It's not just being in the shop. It's thinking about, okay, the holidays are coming up. What do I need? What's going to sell this year? What sold last year? How many signs do I need? Because once December hits, getting an order in is almost impossible if I run out of anything. So, no, I never would have dreamed that I would have a retail shop. But now that I have it, I love it. I don't think there's any way I would never think of shutting this down at this point.
What are your predictions for the holidays? What are some of the hot items that people will be gravitating toward?
So big items are wood signs. You can see I have quite a bit of them in the shop. Books are big items. Other things that sell, like even people want to give gifts of maple syrups and honeys and jams that I sell, are very popular. Mugs, soaps. Those types of items sell. And every now and then someone will come in and it's like, my husband's a collector. What do you have? And then, then I'll have a real collector's sale, But typically the stuff that sells for Christmas and prints, you can see I have a lot of prints in the shop, whether they're reproduction prints or not.
I thought it might be fun to read some of these wood signs because the town names for people who are not from around here, they're not really intuitive. So we've got
Caro,
which...
Am I saying that right? Yeah. Caro, yeah.
Kiskatom?
Yes.
Okay. Is it Acra or Acra? This is where Tom's cashier, a Catskill native, helps out with some local pronunciations.
I mess it up sometimes.
All right, now this one, I don't think it's Coxsackie. Is it Cooksaki?
Cooksaki.
Yeah.
Cooksaki.
And we're getting a little...
It's like cook, right? Yeah. Cook. It's like Cooksaki. Yeah.
Gayhead. I'm not sure where that is.
Gayhead is near Earlton. It's in the Caro area.
Gayhead, Acra, Round Top are all hamlets of Caro. Palinville, Kiskatom are hamlets of Catskill.
And Brooklyn, hamlet of New York.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about this village, this community, the other shops around you, and what is the community here?
Yeah, so post-COVID, maybe even a little before, there's been a substantial change with the type of businesses that are opening up here. There are some interesting shops with unique items, unique offerings. Lady next door to me, she makes her own furniture. There's a cat on the corner shop. I don't know if you've seen that. Everything in that shop is focused just on cats. And people love cats in Catskill because we have the cat statues outside on Main Street during the summer. Local theater just reopened, which is tremendous for Main Street. It's been closed for many years, and everyone's been looking forward for that to happen. New Greek restaurant has opened, great Italian restaurant in town. So there's a lot of things happening. It's a lot of, you're not seeing empty storefronts anymore. And what's happening also is, we're starting to have more events. So Christmas time, we have, parade down the street. Halloween, we have an event for the kids on Main Street. Winter solstice, we close Main Street and have parades and music, and the street is lined with fire pits, and very popular evening. So it's nice to see Main Street coming back. It's not the Main Street that people remember with the grocery stores, and that's all changed. I know people reminisce about that, but in order, you can't compete with the Walmarts and the grocery stores and big box stores anymore. So, for stores to survive, they have to come up with some unique ideas, and mine is everything in this shop is focused on the Catskills, the region. And I try to make sure it's either made here or was from here or somehow is related to the area.
What have been your favorite memories looking back, Tom, coming up here for pretty much your whole life in one way or another?
Yeah, pretty much has been. I came up here when I was 5 years old. What I liked, first thing when it came to mind when you said that, was the outdoors. When I came up here as a kid, it's very different than growing up in, in Brooklyn. So it was being outdoors and hiking and the creeks and the mountains. So the best memories I have is thinking, and even I have lots of photographs of it too, because my dad was a photographer. And we would spend a lot of time outdoors hiking, finding old foundations in the woods, and just that whole aspect of discovery that could not take place in Manhattan or in Brooklyn,
And that part of the Catskills really hasn't changed, has it? So no. Kids these days have those same opportunities if they want.
It hasn't. And I'm going to give a plug here. So the first hotel that we came to in 1965 was Winter Clove in Round Top. And to this day, on Sundays, usually on a nicer day than today, you'll find me there. I'll take my dogs, and I go walking around the old trails back there like I did a long time ago, in the 60s. So it still draws me back. I still go there. The dogs love it too. And so I'm still going back there. There's still that aspect of nature and wanting to be part of the surroundings here, the natural surroundings.
Tom, how can people find you?
I am all over the place. So you can Google Catskill Collectibles. You can Google my name. It's Tom Illari, Illari. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
And your physical location?
It's 386 Main Street in Catskill. The shop is open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the winter. However, I live in Catskills, so if someone was interested in seeing something that I have, they see something on Etsy, they want to come in the shop and actually see it, I'll come by and open the shop for them. I'm only 3 minutes away, so it's not a problem.
You don't get that kind of service at Walmart?
No. No. But yeah, I'm happy to accommodate people who may not be around on the hours that I'm open, but really want to see something or purchase something or even come in and talk. I get a number of people who come in and just want to talk about the history and I came up here when I was, a kid, and we have these conversations of, bringing up the old memories and, remember this, remember that, and so that happens a lot too, where people come in and just want to chat. That's why I have a chair next to. I have 2 chairs back there, because people will come in and sit for an hour with me, and they're more than welcome to anytime they want. I actually enjoy that a lot. And hearing their memories and sharing experiences is very pleasurable.
Catscast, the Catskills podcast, is a production of Silver Hollow Audio. And if Catskills books are on your holiday list, we've teamed up with Purple Mountain Press on a special code for free shipping plus $5 off any order for the whole month of December. Head over to nysbooks.com. Fill up your cart with books from your favorite historians, like Bill Burns, Robert and Johanna Titus, and Michael Kudish, and use the promo code CATSCAST for free shipping and $5 off. If you'd like to sponsor the show, we have a clean slate for 2026, so now would be a great time to get in touch. Just send us a message through the contact form at catscast.com, and we'll get right back to you. Every local sponsor really does help keep the audio tape rolling. Catscast is now broadcasting from WJFF Radio Catskill, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Tune in at 90.5 FM or on WJFFradio.org for our hour-long broadcast featuring updated and expanded stories, plus brand new material. And of course, you can visit us anytime at catscast.com and wherever you get your podcasts. Transcripts by Jerome Kozlowskis. Announcements by Campbell Brown. And I'm Brett Barry, host and producer. Please subscribe, rate, and review to help other listeners discover the show. And you can follow us on Instagram at Catscast. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Catscast is sponsored by the Mountain Eagle, covering Delaware, Greene, and Schoharie counties, including brands for local regions like the Wyndham Weekly, Schoharie News, and the Catskills Chronicle. For more information, call 518-763-6854 or email mountaineaglenews@gmail.com.